Welcome back to the 13 Wishes podcast, where we explore the real stories behind inspiring leaders, the moments that shape them, the values they live by, and the impact they're creating. In this episode, I'm honored to sit down with Eva Ames, a dynamic and deeply respected executive whose leadership journey is as authentic as it is powerful. We talk about what it truly means to lead through change, how to build trust within high-performing teams, and the lessons Eva learned from navigating complex challenges with both strength and heart. Beyond the boardroom, Eva opens up about resilience, mentorship, and what keeps her grounded as she continues to make a meaningful difference in both business and life. This is a conversation full of wisdom, warmth, and clarity, and I can't wait for you to hear. Let's dive in. Hi, Eva. Welcome.
Hi, Abida. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so I just want to start with a little bit about your early life. What was life like growing up, and what shaped your perspective early on?
Great question. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I was actually adopted. I was born in South Korea, but I was adopted, and I grew up in Maryland, here in the United States. I in a very rural farming town.
Wow. So how was that experience like in the US coming from another country?
I was adopted as an infant, so it's grow up as a non-white person in a predominantly white area definitely shaped the way that I look at the world and definitely shaped a lot of who I am today.
Do you remember that your childhood in Korea?
No, I came to the
No.
United States as an infant. I was 4 months old.
Wow. Okay. That's good. I mean, you came far from where you started off. So can't wait to hear the rest of your story. What core values did your family instill in you when you came over that guides you today?
My family is all about hard work and treating people with respect. I think if I had to pick two core values for my entire family, my immediate family, my extended family, that's really what it comes down to. Treat other people the way that you would want to be treated and do your best.
I agree. I agree with that one. Who was your first role model, and what impact did they have on your life?
Well, that's an easy one. My dad.
Oh,
Yeah.
what traits does he have that you adore?
My dad is incredibly humble. He is first generation college graduate, and I love that he never really went out of his way necessarily to be that all empowering girl dad that I think a lot of people are inspired to be today. But he never treated me any differently, whether I was male or female.
Yeah.
And he never pushed his own agenda. My dad has always allowed me and everyone around him to be whoever they are and whoever they're going to be. He's so great with people. He's incredibly kind and he's a great listener. And yeah, my dad is absolutely my hero.
I
and
could
my
tell, I could
even
see
today.
the love you have for him. Oh my goodness. That's admirable, very admirable. So, spirituality, because I like to dig deep into that. With all of the challenges that we face in life, and I know how difficult it is in like leading a team with the positions that you have, the executive positions, are there any practices like journaling, prayer, meditation that you practice to keep you grounded and sane? Because I know it could be chaotic.
Oh, this is such a good question, and definitely not one of my strengths. Over time, this is something that I put a lot more effort into these days. It's something that I wish that I had put a little bit more attention to earlier in my career because it is really important to have that balance.
Yeah.
Someone recently told me that work-life balance is as elusive as world peace, right? We all want it, but what does that mean? And I think that balance doesn't necessarily mean 50-50. That's what I've come to understand. Balance is whatever works for you, and what works for you today might not work for you tomorrow, but you do have to strive for balance. Saying, all right, maybe work-life balance has to be 50-50 isn't necessarily practical or feasible. So there are a lot of times when I'll say in my life, you know what, I'm really busy and I just don't have time for work-life balance right now. Well, whether you're working on some sort of balance between your work and your personal life, or whether you're saying I can't be 50-50 right now, those aren't necessarily the same thing. And spending a little bit of time on yourself, whether it is taking the time to go get that haircut, whether it is working on a little bit of meditation every day, is really, really important. So maybe I don't have time every day for that 2-hour workout. I do have time I try really hard every day to write an entry in my journal. It's something that I've been doing for the last couple of years, and it's really helped to keep me grounded. I think about what I did yesterday, what I did the week before, and it's a great way to look back and see how far I've come. So on that micro sense, looking at the immediate, what's really in my sphere of concern, and then looking a little bit more macro and saying, all right, well, a month ago, I had very different concerns, and look how far I've come. So I do try to journal every day now. I do try a little bit of meditation every day. And if I can spend 10 minutes on myself, that's better than nothing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I recently started doing a lot more breathwork exercises. I even started somatic breathwork. So I try to do like a 5-minute YouTube video every morning. And it really works. Like
I'll have
just
to look into that.
breathing, deep breathing. It feels good and it really works. So that's one of mine that I recently started, and it's been good.
If you can spend 5 minutes scrolling on social media, you
yeah.
could spend 5 minutes on yourself doing a little breath work. And it's so simple. It's like, I'm already breathing, so I may as
Yes.
well be just a little bit more intentional about it.
Yes, yes. With your career growth, that is, were there any moments that tested your values, and how did you deal with that? I know there were probably a lot.
I think your values get tested every day. And for me, some of the biggest milestones have been when I've made decisions about how important they are and how much I'm going to hold true to them.
Yeah.
When I left Tesla, I needed a little bit of time to really think about who I was, who I wanted to be, who I had been, and to make a little bit of sense of where I wanted to go next. And I made a commitment to myself to say, all right, listen, my values are important. I need to live within them. And when we are working in a way that doesn't suit our values, that's when we feel that inherent tension that
Yeah.
makes us say, you know what, I don't like working here. And maybe it doesn't always have to be so extreme as saying, I need to leave and find another place. Maybe it's a question of just reframing how you're going to have a conversation about this project, how you're going to form your next project team, and saying, all right, listen, maybe there are some boundaries that I need to enforce.
Yep.
I was so early in my career. When I worked for Tesla, it was a really challenging environment. I learned a lot. I'm really glad that I did it. But I can also look back and say very comfortably that for me, I left at the right time because I needed to learn and have a little bit more of that personal growth to figure out what the next steps were. I'm really glad that I learned those lessons so early on in my career because it definitely made it easier for me to answer that question. But when I see a lot of other people struggling and it comes down to, oh, you know, you're a first-time manager, and sometimes what you have to do and what you have to convince people to do, because that's what the company needs, it doesn't necessarily fit your values.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
helping people to navigate that question of, all right, this is my job, this is what the company needs me to do, and this doesn't feel good to me, this doesn't really fit the way that I would want to talk to someone else. Well, maybe the message is what you have to convey, but you have a lot of choices in the way that
On
you
how
convey
you
that.
say it.
Is there a
Yes.
way that you can convey that same message or get to the desired outcome and do it in a way that matches your personal values a little bit better?
Yeah. I get that. I get that. So what other stories of your experiences from Tesla that you've, like, learning experiences that helped shape your career?
One of the people in an Elon company say is that impossible is a lot farther than you really think it is. And that's a lesson that I took with me. Impossible is incredibly rare. We have this tendency to say, oh, I can't do that. That's impossible. Well, is it impossible or is it just really hard? And impossible and really hard are very, very far apart from each other.
Yeah.
And just because something might not be practical doesn't mean it necessarily gets ruled out as an option. So in the spirit of my engineering roots and problem solving, taking the word impossible off the table has allowed me to be a lot more creative and think about a lot of other options. Sometimes what seems impossible to you isn't as impossible to somebody else. So coming up with all these different options and saying, all right, I can think of 5 ways to solve this problem. 3 of them are things that we could do immediately. 1 of them is something that is maybe a little bit of a stretch goal. And 1 of them, listen, I'm going to throw this out there. but I don't even think it's a stretch goal. It's just so impractical. It's not technically impossible, but it just really doesn't seem practical. Another
Yeah.
person might say, well, you know, that's really interesting. And it could inspire them to say, what about this, this, this? And before you know it, maybe you've come to some interesting blend of one of the options that's really quick and easy to do, and something else that maybe seemed really, really far off the table, just to you personally.
Okay. Okay. What about navigating through leadership as a woman? What was your experience like since you had all of those that background, you know, because you've worked with multiple organizations, controversial organizations. How was it like as a female navigating leadership?
I'm a person of color, and between the two, it's not always the easiest. Um, Starting with my childhood, right? I grew up as one of the only people of color in a very, very white area. So it is my everyday existence to maybe have people treat me a little bit differently. It's something I grew up with. That doesn't make it right. It just is. Then I went to engineering school for undergrad, and engineering school isn't known for the abundance of women. I believe my major was 90% male. Then I started working in engineering roles for companies, and it is different. So I've never been one of those people that has asked for special treatment or accommodations because I'm a woman, because I'm a person of color. But I also think you have to acknowledge that people do treat you differently. They don't necessarily mean to. They're sometimes not even aware that they're doing it. But we all have biases. And to say that the treatment of women in the workplace, especially in automotive and in engineering, to say that the treatment of women is equal is just not true. So my stance has always been to not make a big deal of it, to keep working, to let the quality of my work speak for itself. And earlier in my career, when I was an individual contributor, it was frustrating to see that I sometimes had to work a little bit harder. But at the end of the day, we're not in this for the one project. A career is a really, really long time. And as an individual contributor, it paid off, and it made me really careful about what I do and very strategic about how I'm going to put things forwards. And it's really only been in the last few years when I've moved into a higher executive level role where it's bothered me more that the issue isn't just the way that I personally am treated, that I also have a voice to help the treatment of other women. And to help other women have a voice in the room, not only while you're in that room, but to take that extra minute to talk to someone who you can see maybe had a hard time in that conversation, or someone that you knew had a great contribution and didn't feel comfortable speaking up. To go out of my way to have the one-on-one conversation, the 5 minutes ahead of the meeting, to walk in together, to sit down together, to make the time to form those connections with other women has been incredibly meaningful. And, you know, maybe it's because I've been a woman of color my whole life, right? It's nothing new for me. My strategy of just put your head down, work really hard, comes back to your very first question, those core values, right? That's just who I am. And that's been my strategy for getting ahead. But I think doing that for such a long time, it kind of put blinders up for there are other women and they're not being treated well either. And maybe I do have a bigger voice to make a little bit of change. You don't necessarily have to go to someone and say, hey, I don't like the way you treated that person, and be aggressive and harsh about it. But if you can inspire one person one time to say, hey, you know, I think that person has some great ideas, and I noticed that the discussion got really heated and it didn't seem like everybody got a chance to contribute. I heard that this person might have something else. Why don't we bring them in? Not only to talk to other women about feeling more comfortable speaking up in situations like that, but to talk to the other people in the room and say, okay, maybe we need to be a little bit more aware of other people who might not be the loudest and could use a little bit more airtime.
What? Yeah. There are times when I've seen a lot of not just women, just younger people now starting up in their career, and I don't know if it's like intimidation and they just don't know how to react, you know, in an environment, a business environment, and they're learning, but especially younger ones who are starting up in their career, they are the ones that I actually see that need guidance, and they're the ones that I go to. I was in that situation as well. So I know how they felt, when you're new and you're starting off in a business environment. So I'm kind of soft-hearted when it comes to the younger ones starting up in a business environment.
Oh, I totally agree. I think women especially, we're social and we want someone to talk to and we want someone that we can ask questions to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to act in a business environment. I mean, think back to being earlier in your career. When I was in college, for example, having an internship or a co-op was very normal. And not only to work on whatever your technical skills were, but also to get used to working in an office. It's not natural. It's not something that people know or they don't. So, especially for people, and not just women, but everybody really isn't really sure about how to move forward, how to fit into this new environment, having someone to talk to openly who listen and not judge for having these questions, it's really normal. And sometimes we've been in the working world for such a long time that we forget that it was always natural that these unspoken social rules about office politics, they need to be
They
spoken for people
exist.
to figure them out.
Yeah, there is one colleague, she's 22 and just finished college. She told me the hardest thing that she said nobody warned her about that transition from college to working. She said it's the most difficult, and that is why I mentioned the younger people because I've seen them struggle and they're unsure of how to speak to people in the workplace to like who they can talk to, what they can say, things like that. So, and I that's the reason why I said that.
That transition from college into working life is so hard. I completely agree.
Yeah.
For me, it was really hard. And I think that's part of the reason why when I left Tesla, I needed a little bit of time off. You work so hard your entire childhood to get good grades and do all those extracurriculars so you can get into a good college. Then you work really, really hard in college because you want to get good enough grades to get a job. And
Yeah.
then you get into the working world and you don't know any other way. So you're just going to work. You're just going to work, work, work. And you don't necessarily think about, okay, I need a little bit of work-life balance unless someone has talked to you about it or you've somehow developed some sort of mindfulness practice ahead of time. If you don't know, then it's something that you're going to find later, probably when something happens that
Yeah.
triggers you to need it.
To need
And
it.
yeah,
And it happens. It happens. It's life, right?
yeah. So taking a pause to slow down and say, all right, hang on, this isn't school anymore. This is
Yeah.
real life. This is my career. It's not everything, that there's more to life than just the achievements that you make at work. That's so important. And that transition from college to the working world is hard because for the first time, you're kind of dropped off and you're
Yeah.
totally on your own to do whatever. So either
Yes.
you're living in that same framework of I've worked really hard and that's what I'll keep doing, or it's even scarier and you say, oh my gosh, like there just are no rules anymore. What do I do?
Yeah. What about strengths? Since you're in an executive position now, what are some unique strengths that women bring to leadership that aren't really recognized or spoken about much?
I think women are really good at social cues. This isn't to say that our male colleagues are not, but I think women are especially attuned to the feelings in the room, to what is unsaid or what
Yeah.
is maybe not said verbally. And women are really good at finding ways to weave that into conversations later. I think that's an underrated skill. It is a skill. And I think women are more likely to really think about it and not forget about it as soon as a meeting or a conversation ends.
I resonate with that because I'm like that. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So what are I know you may have a lot, so if you want to talk about more than one, challenges in your career, that and how did you navigate through them?
My career history is not traditional to what I think a lot of people's career history would have looked like 20 years ago. I certainly intended to go into the working world and to pick a company and stay there. But that's just not how my career has progressed. If you look at my work history, I started at Honda, then I was at Tesla, then I went to the government, and I've made all these different moves. So I would say that there have been challenges with balancing life, with balancing personal growth, and in figuring out what's next and putting it all together. When I graduated from undergrad, it was the middle of the recession. So the labor market and the workforce and the industry just wasn't what I had expected it to be. I had expected to stay in academia a little bit longer. I had expected to be more technical, and I was fortunate enough to be offered a job. So I decided out of undergrad to go work instead of staying in academia because I had the option to do so. And right away, it really changed my sort of life plan and my career trajectory. And every time I've felt like I've gotten to a point in my career where I'm not learning as much as I used to, I've learned about myself that I really love to learn. And when I'm not learning new things, work just isn't as interesting. I'm not as engaged, and it's hard to focus, and I don't get as much enjoyment out of it. So I'm not as tolerant of some of the things that maybe don't match my core values or my core interests as well as if I'm learning a whole lot of new things and finding ways to put it together. So some of the challenges in my career that have pushed me to make these transitions have been things like, all right, I've gotten to a certain point in my career and I feel like I'm ready for more. And either the company or the economy hasn't been at a point where I was going to be able to get that from my current position, or for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel like I'm getting what I need next. It's been a challenge. It's always a challenge to say, all right, it's time to close this chapter and move on to the next. But in being open to the possibility that I've learned a lot and I'm going to take that to figure out whatever that next step is, I've had this amazing career where I started as a design engineer. I was then a government regulator. Then I moved into operations, logistics, and supply chain. And not only did I string together all these very different pieces, but my career has greatly accelerated in a way that would not have been possible if I had stayed at that first or second role forever.
Yes. Yeah, because it's quite diverse and you have a lot of experience in different fields. So yeah, you do have you did move around a lot, but I could tell that in each different area you had different experiences and different lessons that you learned. Same thing with my career path. I moved here from in the US from Trinidad and Tobago. So I studied there, and when I moved over here, I lived in New York first, and then I moved over to Georgia. So, yeah, my career also was not stagnant, and I moved around a lot. So the culture that I came from it's different from the US, meaning it's more professional in the offices. Everyone is with business suits and everybody's professionally dressed all the time. And in the US, it's a little bit laid back, which took a little bit of adjusting at first. But in Atlanta, where I am, I fit in very well here. It's just so different than my experience in New York. But I love this state. I love Georgia. I don't know. I'm just biased, so I'm going to call Georgia out for the best possible way, in the best possible way.
You are just glowing when you
I
talk about
know.
Georgia.
I really love Georgia. I really love Atlanta. Just everything from the southern charm to just you walk outside, people smile at you. It's just everything. It's the closest feeling that I had to home when I moved to Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, that must have been such a challenge. I mean, a
Yeah.
massive cultural challenge.
In my case, I moved here with no family. I didn't even know where I was going to live when I moved to Georgia. When I moved, I actually uprooted myself and my 9-year-old daughter, and we just moved. We moved and we made it here. I moved up very quickly here, so I think this was supposed to be my path to come here. I don't know where my path will be next, but I'm very comfortable here.
That's amazing. I've moved to a lot of different cities too throughout my career. And sometimes I've been so busy working that I haven't really been able to absorb some of the characteristics of the culture and the area that
Yeah.
I'm living in. But I'm also glad that I've been able to move around because I've definitely vibed with certain cities better than
Hmm.
others. I would not have guessed that I would end up long term here in Detroit. But I've lived in the West Coast. I'm from the East Coast. Until I lived in California, I didn't know that I was such an East Coaster.
Yeah. Well, I lived in Houston as well for my daughter's first year of life. When she was one, I used to live in Houston. I like it there, but there's no comparison to Atlanta. As I said, I'm biased. So what are some hobbies that you like? What do you do outside of work? I'm trying to get to know you a little bit more and your personality. What do
Yeah,
you do for
absolutely.
fun?
A lot of people mistake me for an extrovert. I am friendly. I enjoy talking to people, but I am very much an introvert. So I'm
Introvert.
going to say it. Number one, I love reading. And reading is such a great escape, whether I'm on a plane, whether I'm on a train, or whether I just need a few minutes to myself to kind of transition out of the workday and into personal time.
Hmm.
Reading a quick book is a great way to get my mind off it. It can be fiction, it can be a business book, it can be anything. I just love to read for a few minutes and move into a different world and a different point
Hmm.
of view for a second. It helps me to stay grounded and it doesn't take a whole lot of time, right?
Yeah.
I also love cooking. My husband and I love to cook. We love cooking all different kinds of foods. We have 3 dogs, so I would say that they're a little bit of a hobby. They certainly take up a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
I also love mountain biking. So I get out when the weather is nice. I get out as much as I can, trying to claim a little bit of the life in the work-life
Hmm.
balance.
Yeah.
And I'm also a car person in the automotive industry. So I have a whole bunch of cars. And one of my favorite parts about this hobby is when you get really busy, it can just wait. It can sit and you can come back to it later.
Yes.
So yeah,
Oh, that's
too many
nice.
hobbies.
Well, your dogs probably keep you occupied, but they also keep you sane too, right? When you're stressed out,
Absolutely.
that the love you get from them. What legacy do you want to leave on this world, in this world? What do you want your name known for?
Oh, wow. Coming with the
I
hard
know.
questions. I want to leave the world better than I found it. I want to be known for empowering others to be the best versions of themselves. And I want to help other people. I want to be known for a spirit of giving and, yeah, moving people forwards.
Yeah. My own is this podcast. I want to be known for helping people and encouraging them to know that their dreams matter and they shouldn't just believe that other people deserve to have their wishes and dreams come true. They deserve their dreams to come true. That's what I want to leave behind. As well as because I have a daughter who just graduated on Sunday from high school, so she's about to go to college, and I want her to see what I have accomplished, which she has, but I want her to know that anything is possible, and that is the same thing for everybody. I want that message to be known all throughout the world, and I want to just be a positive impact on everybody. That
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 is
is my legacy.
beautiful. Oh, incredible. She just graduated. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. I know I worked hard on that. She
Wow.
will. She's right next to me and she doesn't want me to. She doesn't like when I take credit for her hard work, but it was also my hard work.
Absolutely. Oh, wow, that's so exciting. What's next for her?
She is actually going to a historic women's college, Agnes Scott. So she's looking forward to that. She's already made friends and she's about to do astrophysics and head to Spain after. So I don't know how
That's
long she's going to be in Georgia.
incredible.
Yeah, she has big dreams. So that's the reason why I kind of said that I want her to see that the world is open there for her and she could accomplish anything because she also has huge dreams. Just like any young girl, because I know you had and I had, but I don't want hers to just get swept under a rug, you know?
That's incredible. If you could give her some advice today, what would it be? Because obviously you can't just give her advice directly.
Yeah, well, what advice would I give her?
Yeah.
Not listen to the negative thoughts all the time in your head because you know those negative thoughts always creep up and it gets to you. Once those negative thoughts come into your head, switch it immediately and just know that you could do anything, you could accomplish anything. And you're here for a reason. Everybody's here for a reason. So that is my advice to her. Just switch those negative thoughts because it's easy to go down the anxiety and depression path, and yeah, that's what I would tell her.
She sounds like a very goal-focused, mission-driven kind of young woman.
Yeah, she what happened with her high school is well, her high school education is she set out a path to graduate a year earlier than her peers, and she did. So she graduated. She did that. When you say she's goal oriented, she planned it out and she did exactly that and accomplished it.
She gets
I
more
know you're
incredible
speechless.
every time you talk about her. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I guess my advice to her would be stay goal focused, but balance that a little bit with enjoying the ride.
Oh, that's perfect. That is perfect. And I know that that is advice for other women or kids out there right now. But what about working professionals who are in their career and want to move up? What advice would you give them?
I think talking to other people and finding mentors to help you figure out what's next is helpful. I also think that learning how to take feedback is hard, but it's
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah.
And sometimes feedback doesn't come to you in the words that you want to hear, in the tone that you want to hear it in. But when somebody takes the time to give you some critique, look at it as a gift. It might not be exactly the package that you wanted it to be in, but someone's trying to help you. Now, there is a little bit to be said, just like your advice to kind of shut out that negativity, for sure, right? There are times when people are going to say things and it comes in the form of advice, but it really is unjustified and unfair. And it is hard to balance that and kind of figure out how to filter that out. But assuming that somebody has some critique for you that is valid and justified, even if they're not saying it the way that you want to hear it, and it makes your brain say, no, absolutely not. That's not me. I hate this so much. I hate you.
Yeah.
Try really hard to stay open to the message, because otherwise people won't continue to give you feedback so that you can continue to grow and advance. And we
Yes.
need other people to help us fill in our blind spots.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. When you give advice and they don't take it, you don't want to give advice again, right? So yeah, be open to it. Very, very good advice.
Find a mentor and
Yeah.
then learn to actually listen.
Good one. Okay, so if you could speak to your younger self now, after accomplishing all you did and all of your experiences, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to slow down. I would tell her that it's all going to work out. And working out doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to achieve exactly the goal that you set out to achieve. It means that at the end of the day, everything is going to turn out the way that it's meant to. Be open to
Yes.
those opportunities, slow down a little bit, and look a little bit wider. Have a wider view and a wider perspective, because you don't want to miss out on all the things that are happening as you rush towards that single goal.
Yeah. I have one last question before we end. If you can grant one wish to this world, what would it be?
Only one.
Well, you can list 13 wishes. That's fine.
I wish that we could learn to enjoy other people's perspectives a little bit more.
Yeah, so you can see it from their side and you can have different ways of looking at things.
That we can see the beauty in the differences, that we can see how ultimately we are stronger because of them,
Oh,
that we don't all have to agree, we don't all have to get along, We don't all have to have identical views and beliefs. If we could learn to appreciate the differences a little bit more, we'd be so much stronger for it.
Oh, that was so sweet. That was really good. I have to give you a round of applause for that one. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure speaking to you.
It was a pleasure for me as well. I feel inspired by your story. I'm very inspired by your daughter.
That brings us to the end of another inspiring episode of the 13 Wishes podcast. A huge thank you to Eva for joining us today and sharing her incredible journey, from the challenges she faced to the pivotal moments that shaped her path and the wisdom she's gained along the way. Whether it is her resilience, leadership insight, and a powerful reminder to stay aligned with your way, I hope Eva's story gave you something valuable to carry with you. If you found today's episode helpful, please take a moment to subscribe and follow us on social media. The link is below. Until next time, I'm Abida Thompson, and remember, your journey matters, your voice has power, and your dreams are valid. Keep wishing, keep working, and keep showing up for yourself. See you next time. Bye.